Morning.
Morning, David.
How are you?
Good. Hi, Tony.
Morning, Jay. Another beautiful day here on Captiva.
Yep, it sure is.
Good morning, all.
Hi, Linda.
Hello. So I came up to see my mom, and she's fine now. And so Michigan is close to Ohio. Amazing. So I went down and watched the eclipse yesterday in Ohio.
Where'd you
Which was
go? Yeah, my daughter lives in Cleveland. I guess they had the front row seats.
Right. I went to what was called Ottawa, Iowa, which my brother had picked out as a very small town in the middle of sort of nowhere. And
I'm very familiar with it.
Is that honest and true?
Honest and true.
What a nice little town, and what a nice
Well, I
little
don't
park.
remember it. When I first went to work at my company, I had to do 6 months of sales training, and Ottawa, Iowa was one of my territories.
Oh, this was Ohio, Ottawa, Iowa. Was that
Oh.
it? Okay, but it was still,
Oh.
it was extremely nice. And what you saw was all these Michigan people kept coming into the parking lot, that they were coming down. And then it was like a tailgate party almost, with people sitting around, kids playing. It was nice. And then, of course, the good show.
Was it sunny? Clear sky?
Yes. Clear skies, clear skies. We saw the corona. We saw sun explosions. Some people had telescopes we could look through with the filters on. It became totally dark, and it was like sunset, except that, you know how it's light along the the horizon. It was light everywhere around the horizon.
Oh.
So that was sort of cool. It was just a nice life experience.
You can get a Corona down at the pool bar anytime.
Okay. Maybe I'll repeat the experience down there.
Yeah, I'll catch the next
Drink
one.
enough of them, the lights do go out too, probably.
Probably.
Yeah.
You're going to catch the next one, John. I'll go with you. If we can do this, we'll go.
Yeah.
20 plus years, right?
Yeah.
It's after 9 o'clock.
It is, okay. Well, it doesn't look like we have many people signed in here. Well, I'll start a roll call and hope some people come on. David Mintz,
I am here.
Linda Laird,
Here,
Tony Lappy. Tony is here.
So here.
Ann Brady.
Good morning.
Oh, there she is. Sandy Stillwell. Not here yet. Bruce McDonald.
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, Bruce.
Good morning.
Ken Gill.
Here.
Hi, Ken. Marguerite Maville. Marguerite. Hope she'll join us soon. John Jensen.
Yeah, good morning, Jay.
Hi, John. And Ken Suarez.
Here, good morning.
And Jay, Marguerite is now on.
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry, I was unmuted and my video is off.
Okay, well, we've got you now. That's what's important.
Yes.
And Sandy Stillwell Youngquist is also here.
Sandy is still here also. Okay, well, we have a full house this morning. Great. Okay, well, I'd like to welcome everybody to the April 9th meeting of the community panel. I think our first order of business is to approve the minutes from the last meeting, which was March 12th. Have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion, Jay.
A second?
second,
Any discussion of the minutes? All those in favor of approving, aye, raise your hands.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that takes care of the preliminaries. First up, update from the sheriff's office. Rich Zeltman, are you around, Rich?
Hi, Jay. Could you
There
hear
he
me?
is.
Hi, could you hear me, Jay?
Yep, we've got you fine. Everything looks good.
Okay. So we've had a very busy month. As you probably know, this is the time of year where a lot of the visitors come down and a lot of people come and visit and rent properties and from out of town and other states. So we've been busy, and I don't know if you heard, but just to highlight a couple of things, we had a burglary over at YOLO where a couple of visitors broke in and they went into the back of the business and stole a golf cart. We wound up apprehending them. We were very fortunate. And one of the key things that we were able to identify them was security video. I would like to, that's what I put in my notes here, is I would like to highlight to the businesses and homeowners that it's a good idea to install security videos, or at least if you have them, make sure that your batteries are up to date and they're in working order,
Right.
because that helped us successfully capture those burglars.
Yeah, your
We
predecessor,
also
Mike,
had
used to stress that all the time, particularly on docks, on Roosevelt Channel, to have video monitors.
Mhm.
Yes, that's very, today they're not that expensive as they were many years ago, so it's a benefit to have. And we I don't know if you guys heard, but there were a couple of cast nets stolen off a fishing guide at McCarthy's Marina a couple of weeks ago.
A couple of what were
I think it was,
stolen, Rich?
March 15th. Cast nets
Oh, okay.
off of a fishing boat. The guide went out fishing. You know how they get up super early in the morning, they go to catch their bait, and one morning he went out to get his bait for a fishing charter and found out that his cast nets were gone.
Huh.
Yeah.
And that was at McCarthy's Marina.
Mm.
So, if any of your viewers happen to be around McCarthy's Marina around March 15th and notice somebody, with a group of cast nets, to let the sheriff's office know. We've got a detective that's on the case that's looking into it.
Okay,
Um, Lastly, the group of teenagers that we've had a month or two ago, we haven't seen them group up on the beach of late. I think they've got the memo that we weren't tolerating that here on Captiva. So that's good news. What I would like to mention is the open container of alcohol ordinance that the county has doesn't only apply to the spring breakers and to the visitors. You know, the homeowners also have to understand that that's the law. If you're in the public area or walking along the beach, you know, don't carry an open container, because that sends a poor message to our visitors and they think that they could do it.
right.
And so there were some other things that occurred during the past month. I mean, like I said, it was very busy, but overall we held the fort.
Okay, very good. When I was looking at the minutes, from last meetings, you said there was a hit and run. Was that right?
Yes,
Did that ever get resolved or
that did.
it
That
did?
that
Okay,
got resolved between the detective. Yep, that got resolved.
very good. Does anybody have anything for Rich they'd like to ask him? Can I suggest you put out a notice to encourage people to, use security cameras? It's been a while since we've put any emphasis on that, and since Rich is bringing it up again, perhaps we've gotten lax in doing that. Okay, next up, Jeff Powell from the Fire District. Jeff, you around?
I am. Good morning, Jay. Morning,
Hi,
everybody.
Jeff.
So I'll start with everybody's favorite topic. Hurricane season is right around the corner, June 1. So if you haven't started thinking about the next hurricane season and you're still thinking about the last one, it's time to start doing that. So I'm sure everybody saw the numbers that came out, 23 named storms, 11 expected to be hurricanes, 5 of those expected to be major hurricanes. I will say, hopefully, the one thing we got going for us this year, it is a La Nina year. So that does generally work in our favor here on the Gulf Coast and keeps a lot of those storms offshore in the Atlantic. But we all know it only takes one. So let's not rely on that. If you need information on how to prepare either yourselves or your homes, feel free to reach out. If you go to our website, captivafire.com, click on the emergency management button, there are tons of links to useful information on where to get more information, how to prepare your home, family plans to prepare for yourself. All that kind of stuff that you could need is all on there. Links to other websites that also provide more information, Lee County Emergency Management, phone numbers, all that good stuff that you could want, it's all in one place. If you don't find what you're looking for and you still have questions, please feel free to reach out. You all have my number, my email, and where to find me. So come by and call and ask whatever you need at that time. But now's the time. Let's not wait till June, July, August when we start getting busy. So let's go ahead and do a good job of preparing like we have in the past. I spoke at the owners meeting in South Seas the other day. And I'll say the same thing as a whole, as an island here on Captiva. I want to commend you guys as residents because you guys were prepared. Your homes were prepared. 99% of you did evacuate. So I thank you. That did make our job a lot easier after the last storm. And you guys do a good job of that. So let's keep that up. Second, and the last thing I will mention is if you're out on the beach, be careful. As Rich mentioned, some of those spring breakers that we had out here thought it would be a good idea to dig giant holes on the beach, the size that you can drive a car into in some instances. So we have been out there. We did fill a bunch of them in. Some of them are just too intensive and too big that we'd be out there way too long with my guys, and we've roped some off. So if you see some areas that are staked with fire line, yellow fire line around them, those aren't turtle nests. Those are hazardous areas. We have followed up with the CEPD. I'm sure Daniel might mention it. I'm not sure if he's on this call or not. I don't see his name, but we did follow up and ask them, you know, about the same problem. So I just want to let you know if you see that out there, or you know, if you have grandkids that are down or you have visitors staying with you, please remind them of the safety. I'm not trying to discourage little kids from building sandcastles and a little moat around. That's not what I'm talking about. But when you start digging holes big enough that people can go into, I'm sure most of you saw what happened over in Fort Lauderdale, and that little girl died that got trapped in that hole and couldn't get out. So, you know, once they start getting too big, it really is a safety concern, not only for that, but if we have to respond to a call or the sheriffs have to respond to a call, or SCCF is out there and in the dark, you don't see those, and we can drive right into those, and then that can be hazardous for us as well. So
Right.
just keep that in mind, and hopefully the CEPD should be following up with that as well with their projects coming up. So
Hey, Jay, where are those holes? Are there several of them or just?
yeah,
one?
so the ones that we marked off were the biggest one was within South Seas kind of border there up near Sheffalera. That was the biggest one. That was actually a homeowner and son are the ones who dug it and told our guys that it's private property. They own all the way to the water and to get off their property. So that was that was a challenge for us. We tried to impress upon that the safety aspect, and you know, we weren't going to get in the discussion of, you know, you own the beach, you don't own the beach. You know, we don't even go there. We just impress upon them the safety aspect of it. And then the other two that we have marked, one was they were both around the like a Whiteman kind of area. Were the other two that we've marked off. The last front did help with those ones a little bit, but they were still pretty large. So we had marked those as well. That was let's see, last day I ran out there. What day was that? So that was Friday was the last day I was out there and ran. So I check them on my morning run on the beach, so it's easy to find them because I almost fall into them if it's still dark out. So, but so yeah, does anybody else have any questions for me?
I have one question for you, Jeff.
Yes, sir.
With the last hurricane with Ian, one of the major issues that we faced was cell service. And eventually we got the Starlinks set up and we were able to manage after a while. Is there anything that we can do prior to the hurricane or at the start of the hurricane season to make sure that we have the cell phone sort of temporary infrastructure set up before the hurricane hits so that if and when it does, we're prepared for that with cell service?
Yeah, so in the past, and I am still having some of those discussions through emergency management. Generally, those emergency, those satellites and stuff they put up are travel items that are meant for when the storms actually hit, so they don't pre-stage any of those because of the amount that they have. So those are mobile. So it's hard to secure one in the event a hurricane might happen. They don't usually give those out. We can get satellite phones. We get sat phones. I will say even after the last storm, those sat phones were pretty garbage as well. Fire district wise, we are trying to secure our own Starlink. So we just have one permanently here at the station at all times so we can use in an event like that. They're not, they don't carry enough bandwidth to run our department off of full time to switch to them yet. But in the event of a storm, it does provide enough service to provide basic usefulness at the station. So yes and no. I haven't found a source to be able to get a full satellite type system from any of the carriers that would work, you know, island wide in the event of a storm yet.
So Jay, maybe that's something we have to, you know, work with Jeff on to think about. Because I do remember that was a major problem.
Yeah, 100%. It definitely was. And I will say, so T-Mobile was the first one to get out here, and they actually mounted a dish right to our station. And then Verizon and AT&T FirstNet were kind of about the same by the time they got their mobile satellites kind of up in the air. They're ones that they tether. They were kind of second. Unfortunately, it was still weeks before that even kind of got in place. So it was very cumbersome. Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a question. I read the evacuation survey that was associated with, well, not survey, study associated with Protect Captiva and the evacuation times required. Because, I guess because of the causeway issues, is there anything we should be doing to update our standard evacuation times on the island? So if, I don't know the answer to this, so we get going early enough to get people off.
Yeah, I mean, so I always recommend to evacuate before the county tells you, before they make that call for mandatory evacuation. Because the county is looking at a zone as a whole. They're not just looking at Captiva or Sanibel or Fort Myers Beach. They're looking at zones. We're on a barrier island. It doesn't take a major hurricane to cause problems on a barrier island. It doesn't take 15 feet of storm surge to cause problems on a barrier island. So I think it would behoove most homeowners that if there's a major hurricane even coming close to Captiva, you should definitely be considering evacuating, not only for the matter of the time and how long it may take. We all know how long it takes to get, well, maybe everybody doesn't, but it takes a long time just to get off this island at the end of the day without a hurricane. So if there's a storm and we're trying to evacuate, yes, it is going to take longer. So, you know, I always err on the side of caution to evacuate early. We do have to follow regulations on when they say mandatory is. I can't go and say mandatory you should, but I'm always going to recommend before the county does that you should evacuate. And I think there's a handful of people who did stay last time, who may realize that that wasn't the best idea and they're not going to stay next time.
Mhm.
I don't know if that answers your question or not, Linda, but
Yes, it did. It did. It may be that we all need to be listening to you more at the beginning. And if you're starting to say that, then the panel needs to be saying that you recommend evacuating at this point.
and I will definitely say if you wait to leave until you see our fire truck driving off the island, you definitely waited too long.
Right.
Thank you.
Anything else for Jeff? Shall we move along to CEPD?
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Is Dan Munt here?
I don't see anybody from CEPD on the list, Jay.
Yeah, and I wasn't able to stay for the whole meeting yesterday, so I don't feel I would give a good report at this point. Let's put it that way. Things are in progress, I know, but I do not have a total update to be able to give it.
Okay.
Linda, do we know if any communication is coming out from CEPD prior to the ballot, prior to the election, which will make it clear that we're not seeking $25 million worth of taxpayer funds by the nature of that vote, but that a lot of that 25 million has been already funded and some will be funded in the future. So people, when they go to vote, either by absentee ballot or in person, that they don't think they're voting for a tax expenditure of 25 million.
I have been told that, but I don't have proof that it's happening at this point. Okay.
Well, I have gotten, Linda, at least 2 notifications about the upcoming vote.
From Lee County.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's.
Yeah,
I mean,
I've seen nothing that would lead me to believe that we're not asking for 25 million.
Right, so I've been told that we will have a clear communication. I have not seen it yet. I have not reviewed it yet. I'll follow up on that, but
Okay.
it could have happened at the end of the meeting when I was not in attendance.
Linda, do you know where we are on raising funds? Are you able to make a projection of how much assistance we're going to get, or?
No, I can't do that either. Sorry, Jay.
Okay.
Any update on the timing, Linda?
Which part of the, we're waiting for bids to come in.
Still, okay.
Based upon the bids. And there's 3 different windows, and then we're gonna make the determination, none before the fall. Okay,
None of the
Right.
4 what, Linda?
none before the fall. None will start before the fall. we're, what the part of the meeting I was in, we were working on how to obtain the loan and get the best rate for the loan for the 25 million, and making sure we had because for the bonds, how to get the best bonds and how to and so that's what we're talking about, as well as obtaining the appropriate bond attorneys, etc. That's the part of the meeting I was in.
Okay. All right, next up,
Jay, I
SCCM.
would like to make one comment, please.
Yeah, sure, Marty.
No, I think it is very important to encourage people to vote on this. And the Captivians that are not here, but have already moved away from Captiva, they need to call Lee County to have their mail sent to their address, wherever that might be, to enable them to mail by vote. It doesn't happen automatically.
I think Kent's been doing a good job of that, and the things I got in the mail from Lee County clarified that for me, at least. So I agree with you, Marguerite. We have to make sure people vote.
Yeah, and maybe when we have different numbers than right now, because they are stated on the sample ballot, maybe once the CEPD has lower numbers, we can send out a reminder.
The CEPT is committed to doing it. I just haven't
Yes.
exactly when and what the plan is for accomplishing it.
The election is in May, though.
May
20
21st, yeah.
May what?
I think it was May
21st, I think.
21st.
Right. So it's already April, and it takes a little bit of time to get out a mailing. And so I really do think it's important to follow up on this. I think it's very likely that it'll pass. The only people that vote are full-time residents, people who are registered as voters. So it's like about 260 people will vote on this. It's not property owners, it's registered voters. But nonetheless, if by chance we don't do the communication and this ballot goes down, there's not going to be a beach renarc. And that's very serious stuff for us. So I think it really behooves us to make sure this communication goes out.
Dave, do you know what the percentage is on yes votes for it to pass?
It's just got to be the majority of those voting.
So, but
Oh,
last
okay.
time, John, there were 11 votes against and 100 or 200 for.
Yeah, and the history of this, it's always passed with a very, very high majority.
And there doesn't have to be a minimum people voting.
No,
Oh,
it's like
10 people vote and okay.
It's like 10-1 pass.
Okay, yeah.
But overconfidence is a very bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, STCF, Matt, are you around? DePaulis?
I am, yes. Thank you. Good morning. Just a couple quick updates for you today. Really like that the spring break holes are being highlighted again. That's obviously a huge issue just for beaches in general and public safety. But I'd also like to point out that that can be a huge impediment to turtles that are beginning their nesting season now. They can get stuck in them. It can ruin their nest for the evening or potentially worse. So there's lots of reasons to fill in your holes when you're done digging them and advocate for that around the community. Other than that, I think the big thing on everyone's mind right now is the lake releases. They have started up again, but they are taking kind of a different tack. So we had initiated a 14-day pause in lake releases about a week ago, and that was to give the estuaries a chance to recover from the damaging flows they've been receiving. What we've been seeing is that the estuaries have been returning to their proper salinities in about 3 days. So a 14-day complete pause wasn't necessary to return the salinities to normal. However, when we initiated the pause, the Army Corps was seeing that blue-green algae was forming in the Caloosahatchee River. So they restarted releases, but at a much lower level. We were getting releases that were over 2,000 CFS. Now we're getting them that are around 650 CFS on average, which is cubic feet per second. So that's not enough that's going to do anything to lower the lake necessarily, but it will move that stagnant water through the river, and hopefully tamp down some of those algae blooms we're seeing. And that's really all I got today.
Matt, do you make any forecast as to what water quality is going to be over the next few months?
Really, it depends on how we see when El Nino makes the shift and how we see the start of wet season happening. Because if we get a really heavy rainy season right at the beginning, that lake level is going to shoot back up and we're going to have to get releases again. Because we have seen the lake come down through these releases, but it has only fallen about a foot. And we'll have to be reactive, but it's a long way of saying no.
Okay.
Can't really make a good forecast.
Anybody have anything else for Matt? Okay, each at each one of our meetings, I provide an opportunity for a South Seas update. I don't think we've had one yet. Is Bob Walter around? Have you seen him?
No, he's not on, and I did not get a response when I reached out to him to find out if he was going to attend.
Okay. So I guess we can assume that we're not going to be getting updates from them, I guess, because this is several months in a row now that they've decided not to provide an update. All right, next up is Sunset Captiva Crosswalk. No, FEMA and
County South Seas redevelopment.
yeah, County South Seas redevelopment, rezoning, the whole legal issue. David, are you going to take that on?
Sure. Good morning. The first thing I want to say is if people haven't seen the video that Protect Captiva put out, which lays out why the community is concerned about the increase of density and height on Captiva, I really encourage you to see it. It's available to watch. It's only 6.5 minutes, available to watch on the Protect Captiva website. You can just Google Protect Captiva and the video come up. It's also on YouTube. 3 of our panel members were on that video. They were great. Ken Suarez, Jay Brown, and Tony Lappy. We're hoping to get an Oscar for the short documentary. But we haven't been nominated yet for by the Academy yet, but we're hoping for that. I'll just go through a quick update of what's happening. As everybody knows, I believe at this point that we have filed a petition with the state that the code amendments that allow for increased density and height on Captiva violate the Lee plan. And we've had a hearing before the Department of Commerce on April 4th, where for half an hour, our attorneys and our expert witnesses presented their case. And then for a half an hour, the county responded, and the Department of Commerce will issue their recommended decision sometime around May 7th. At that point, the parties will then, either the county or Protect Captiva Coalition, the CCA, will file the petition with the administrative law judge, and there'll be a full-blown trial. This is to get to the administrative law judge, you have to go through this Department of Commerce process. The Department of Commerce doesn't have any enforcement powers, but it is a step before you can get to the administrative law judge. And eventually, after the administrative law judge issues a decision, then it'll go to the governor's cabinet to determine how to enforce the decision. We submitted papers to the Department of Commerce, basically explaining why the Lee County why the code amendments were inconsistent with the plan. And it's important to remember that the plan requires Lee County to do certain things. And it requires Lee County to enforce development standards that maintain the historic low-density residential development pattern of Captiva. It requires the county to continue existing land use patterns, and it requires the county to limit development that is in keeping with the historic development pattern on Captiva. And so the changes in the code, in our view, clearly violate or clearly are inconsistent with those plan amendments or those plan provisions. The existing land use pattern on Captiva really can't be disputed. It's been in effect for 20 to 50 years, 3 units per acre for hotel and dwelling units, including South Seas. Building heights were always 35 feet above grade or 42 feet above sea level. That's still what it is on South Seas. And even in the rest of Captiva, it's 28 feet above, 35 feet above grade, 42 feet above sea level, or 28 feet above base flood elevation. The county just increased that to 35 feet above base flood elevation. And we believe that's inconsistent with the plan. Also, right now, talk about inconsistent, South Seas is now exempted from even the higher 35 feet above grade building heights on the rest of Captiva. Under the zoning that they're requesting, they're asking to go 45 feet above base flood to 75 feet above base flood. And the code amendments exempt them totally from the 3 hotel units per acre that apply to everybody else on Captiva, and gives them, with a planned development, the potential for unlimited number of hotel rooms. And outside the gate of Captiva, we go from 2 stories to 3 stories, which is not consistent with the historic development pattern on Captiva. So we feel on its face, these code amendments violate our plan. The other thing that we've discovered and we've reported to the Department of Commerce is that evacuation times are going to increase significantly from the island with this new development proposal. And so we made that presentation. The Department of Commerce didn't have a lot of questions, and we will await their decision. But in any case, either the county or we will file with the administrative law judge probably. And so we're just going to keep this process moving. The other thing we did last week is we filed the
Well,
lawsuit.
David, it would be conceivable if the Department of Commerce found in our favor. If the county said, okay, we accept that, then it doesn't have to go to an administrative law judge. Is that correct?
That is correct. If the county says, we've been hearing it from the community for over a year or 6 months, the Department of Commerce before said it was a false flag of resiliency, whether you really want to increase hotel density. Now the Department of Commerce is saying that the code amendments violate the plan. The county can go back and amend the code to make it consistent with the plan. They could do that. Whether they do that remains to be seen. Okay. The other thing we did last week, the Protect Captiva Coalition last week is we filed a complaint in circuit court seeking to enforce the 2003 mediation settlement agreement that prohibits Lee County from issuing building permits for units within South Seas Resort that would exceed 912 units. There was an agreement back in 2003 between the county, the developer, at that point was the owner of South Seas, and CCA, that would limit all development and building permits on South Seas to 912 units. The attorneys for Protect Captiva are seeking to enforce that agreement and get a declaratory judgment from a judge letting the county know that they can't issue building permits beyond 912 units. There are currently 640 units on South Seas that are owned by the other associations and property owners. Timbers out of the 912 was then allocated 247 units on top of the 640, and there were 25 unbuilt units. That equals 912. 640 units exist. They had 140 employee housing units, which they knocked down, 107 hotel units, which they knocked down, and there were 25 unbuilt. So South Seas is now seeking 707 units, which the 272, the 247 they knocked down, the 25 unbuilt, and 435 hotel units, which would take the total number of units on South Seas well above the 912. It would take the total units up to 1,347 units.
Right.
It's big time, big. And so that's why we're seeking to enforce that 912 cap.
Now, David, that agreement where the county said they would never seek to increase density beyond 912. That was a way of resolving an issue on South Seas, whereas they wanted to cluster the density into small.
No, what that was is back in 2002, when they did the administrative interpretation, it wasn't evident what the cap, whether or not lockout units were going to be counted as additional units. In other words, Bayside Villas had an ability to sort of break down their condos into 2 units. And that would have been, instead of 102 units, it would have been 204 units. And there was a dispute about whether you counted them as separate units. And they would then take them well over the 912 cap. And so there was not clarity on that. So the county and the developer, everybody agreed that the lockout units would be eliminated and that it would limit the cap at 912 units as was originally intended. That's what part of the concern was for the CCA. And at that point, everybody was on board. The county voted 5-0. The owner of South Seas agreed, and CCA agreed that the limit is understood to be 912, and the county would never issue more than building permits for more than 912 units at any time. Quote,
Right.
at any time.
What did the county receive of value in that agreement?
Well, that was the county, yeah, they settled the lawsuit. I mean, yeah, that was the deal. They settled the lawsuit. The county was accused basically or alleged to have been violating their zoning. And that was the settlement of the lawsuit. And the same thing with the developer. They were basically alleged to have been violating their zoning agreement that was publicly noticed and accepted and voted upon and had been in existence since 1973. So it was for, well over 25 years at that time.
Okay.
And so that's the, I mean, you have an agreement that's a 2003 mediation settlement, whether or not a court's going to say, 25 years passed, it's a long time. We just don't know at this point what the county defenses are going to be, because the county has 20 days to file an answer. And so once that issue is joined, as they say in legal terminology, then, whether a court will just by summary judgment or motion on the pleadings will determine that this is an enforceable agreement, or whether they're going to want to have discovery and a trial before the judge to get more evidence before the judge before he makes a final decision. We just don't know at this point. We'll find out after the answer is filed and see what the county's defenses are to the fact that we're claiming that it's a violation here. I mean, the county might also say that it's premature. They haven't agreed to increase it over 912, but our position is obviously, when you exempt South Seas from the density and height limitations, and South Seas recognizes this and then comes in for an application that's well above the 912, that there is a ripe issue that should be resolve it now rather than after the fact, when you go through 9 months of hearings at the county and then you can't do it. So from judicial efficiency, it makes sense to get this issue resolved that way. So that's number 2. Number 3 is, the South Seas did make their application to the county. The county said their application was insufficient. They had asked again for the additional 707 units. The South Seas just responded with about a 300-page answer to the county's insufficiency letter. We're in the process of reviewing it. And then as soon as our Protect Captiva attorneys review it and issue comments that'll go to the county, we'll make that publicly available to everybody. But it takes a little bit of time to go through a 300-page document. But the fundamental problem with the South Seas application is that they're claiming they have 272 units that are vested under the administrative interpretation that's been in effect for decades. And then they're saying, but we also want 435 hotel units that are prohibited under the administrative interpretation. So they want to take the best stuff for them out of the administrative interpretation and then say it doesn't apply to the rest. And so they want it both ways. And I think the county recognizes that. And I think South Seas has been in a bind about that issue. Because you really can't have it both ways. It's an inconsistent argument. And that'll have to get resolved. The last thing is as everybody knows, we made a public information request to figure out how this happened and how it happened without us knowing about it and what communications took place between the county commissioners and county staff and South Seas even before 6 months before we know we even were aware of any of this. And it turns out that there are 26,498 documents that
Whoa.
that are within the subject matter of South Seas and the county staff or county Board of County Commissioners equally in 104,000 pages. Let me just say this.
Over what period of time was this, David?
This is only from 2020, January 2021 till like a month ago. But let me just say this before people get really crazed about this, is that it includes everything, all the emails and all the email exchanges and texts relating to South Seas that the county commissioners got. And our community sent the South Seas commissioners thousands of emails opposing this proposed project. So some of those 26,000 documents will be from our community, from our people who send emails to the county commissioners. And so we will have to take those out and we'll see what else went on. But we know for a fact that there were communications going on between representatives, agents of South Seas and the county attorney's office and the county staff back in January of 2023, well before we even knew any of this was going on. And they were discussing changes to our code without any of us knowing anything.
Do we know if there was any communication before Timbers bought South Seas?
The email suggests there was. Email suggests there was, but we hired somebody to go through all these public information documents and to categorize them. And then we'll have a summary, a review of them, and we'll make that available to people so they know what went on. But at this point, the answer to your question from the little I've seen, Jay, is yes. So we shall go from there. The last thing I want.
David,
Yeah.
could we have asked, I assume the answer is yes, as the Timbers sale was going through, because of Sunshine, could we have asked to see any documents between the county and Timbers at that point in time?
We've asked for them and we're gonna.
No. So to be for the future or for whatever, when something like this is happening and we're sitting around looking at each other and saying, how are they going to make this a going concern? How are they going to make money off of this? What's going on with this sale? What is the county agreeing to? As the sale is taking place, could we have asked to see any relevant documents?
Probably.
What? Probably?
Probably, yeah, and we're gonna see them now. We will see all email and all exchanges between South Seas and the county commissioners and the county staff. We have them in our possession now via link, and we will print them and we will take a look at them. It's not a Sunshine issue. We can meet with county staff, we can meet with the county commissioner. What Sunshine does is prohibits conversations between the county commissioners about a subject, but it doesn't prohibit South Seas from meeting with the county commissioner or with the county staff about this. So I'm not suggesting there's anything illegal, but it will give us better insight into how this took place without us, the community, knowing about it. There is what's called daisy chaining, which is you can't have someone sort of walk between the commissioner's offices for the purpose of, rather than them talking among themselves, they sort of this agent goes between them and sort of passes the messages on and tells them, oh, we should all vote this way. I'm not suggesting that happened. But this is really not a sunshine issue. This is just a way for us to understand how our Captiva code and our Captiva plan even, but our Captiva code was changed without the community being involved in any of it. And we heard about it as a fait accompli on May 31st or June 1st, 2023, when it appeared on the agenda before the Board of County Commissioners. So that's what's going to give us some insight. Maybe there'll be some problems that we're not aware of. If there are legal problems that arise, we will definitely be willing to address them and do whatever's necessary. The last thing I want to say is that the Protect Captiva, two things I want to say. The Protect Captiva Legal Fund has reached about $480,000 or $485,000 in that we've already collected. We have more than 600 contributors. Our immediate goal is going to be about $750,000. We're going to need that to pursue the legal actions that we are pursuing. And we're asking everyone to continue to donate if they can afford to do that. And that's easy to do. You just go to the Protect Captiva website, hit the donate button, and all the donations are now tax deductible. An accountant has approved that. One last thing is that we just received notice that South Seas is holding what they're calling an open house on April 25th. They are calling it a voluntary open house. And they put out a notice in the news press, and they've sent the notice to the Captiva Community Panel. They're calling it a voluntary open house. It's this need to have it both ways. They don't want to say that they're required to have it under our plan or code as a public information meeting, because they think they're exempt from that. But on the other hand, they want to make sure they have it just to make sure their application is sufficient. So they're basically having it, but they're saying it's voluntary, but they're noticing it. So we'll do an evaluation of that, and we will as a community service, we will send out the information. I'll work with Ken on that and make sure that our constituency knows about this quote voluntary open house. They say that what I've seen is that say they will be around in an open house format. If anybody has any questions, they can ask them about the development application. That's very different than holding a public meeting where people can voice their concerns and minutes have to be taken, and those minutes are then provided to the county so the county understands what the community's concerns are. So it's a little unclear to me at this point exactly what South Seas sees as the purpose of this meeting, but whatever they see, we will get it out because that's our job. And that's it, Jay. That's my report on what's going on. There's a lot going on. The plan application, as I said, is still in flux, but we will make sure we coordinate with everybody that's impacted by this application on South Seas community to intervene in this process as it develops.
Okay, and then David, I assume Protect Captiva will have regular updates, like the one that you did 2 weeks ago at the community center. I thought that was very helpful. And
yeah, we put it out. We just put out an update by email. I mean, we have a great communication system going on. When updates come out, which one just came out very recently, the Captiva Community Panel puts it out, the SCCF puts it out, and the CCA puts it out. And it's always the same, so everybody gets the same notice. We attached 4 documents that were provided to the Department of Commerce, and even the complaint that went to the circuit court, we sent that out, so everybody's seen it. And we will continue to do that. Tony, you're on mute, Tony. Tony, you're on mute. You're on mute. There you go.
There we go. I got a question maybe you and Ken could maybe answer it on this open house. Seems kind of weird. I mean, what's our recommendation? Should we go? Should we not? Should we just go there? And I mean, what's your thoughts?
You know, I don't know what their with the purpose of it is, I haven't discussed it with anybody yet because I just found out about it. You know, I think we've always been very respectful, the approach we've taken, and we've always taken the high road, and we've been consistent in our messaging, and we've been accurate and correct. And, you know, I'm not looking to crash, I don't recommend people crash somebody else's party. But they are noticing it as a public notice, so they obviously feel they have to take that step. Whether they're doing this to create goodwill or whether they feel they're required to do it under the code, I don't know the answer to that. I think between now and the 25th, we can protect Captiva. We'll put out a position on this and ask people to come or not or whatever. And I know that the owners at South Seas, and Ken is here, will have very strong thoughts about how one should participate in that meeting. So I just don't have a direct answer to you. And if people are interested in what they're proposing, and that's what it'll be, it'll show the 707 units, where the 2 hotels are gonna be, where their condos, which should be 3 stories, will be, where their water parks are gonna be. I think most of this stuff is pretty public. So I'm speculating, and it's sheer speculation, that they're covering the you know, they're making sure all their I's and dotted and T's are crossed.
Well, they have a requirement to have a public meeting and get public comment.
Well,
Don't they?
that's the question. They are taking the position that they're not required to do that because this was a county initiated set of amendments and not their set of amendments. On the other hand, in my view, our Captiva code does require them to have a meeting because they're not exempt from in my view, the public information requirements on the Captiva code for rezoning. So I don't think they want to concede that they're not exempt. But I think they want to make sure that if they aren't exempt, that they have this meeting. So I think they want it both ways. And so I think that's what's going on, Jay, but it's hard for me to know for sure. I think they don't think they're required, but they're not sure.
I think it would be advantageous for everybody to understand or even see what the policy that they're thinking they're under is this policy 23.4.1 that's in the land development code that they're trying to fulfill. Their notice clearly says notice of public information meeting, and that's what this policy states, public informational meeting. And so, you know, I think personally it's important. While I agree 100% that we're not there to crash a meeting or to, you know, cause a problem, I think if you are concerned and you have some legitimate concerns that are on, this is what's important about this meeting, is that if you are going to attend, you have to specifically point out items in the zoning application that you're concerned about. You can't go there and generalize what the issue is. And that's why if you are or if you want to attend that meeting, you know, go there and make it a good, valid reason, because if they are going to fulfill this policy, then they have to take those concerns and they have to give them to Lee County, and they have to have respond to those concerns. So, you know, it's something that our committee will be talking about further, but, you know, we have, 2 weeks to prepare for it. And certainly there's going to be people, owners that are inside the resort that are going to raise issues. And we have to, I think we have to guide the community and also the owners within South Seas on how to conduct themselves if they are going to go to this meeting.
Yeah, I think we need direction as to whether or not we ought to go there and voice a lot of questions, make a lot of observations.
Yeah,
Well, I think if you read the policy, I think you would have a guideline as to what it is. So
yeah, well, that's the way I always understood this kind of a meeting is it's a meeting to solicit public input to what they're proposing. And if we don't go to that meeting and we don't give them any input, then that sends a signal, I think, that the community doesn't have an issue with what they're doing.
Well, I think the county knows the community has a
Yeah.
what they're doing. And I think we'll review it with the attorneys and the Protect Captiva Coalition and through the CCA, through this panel, through SCCF, through the homeowners associations on South Seas, will issue a statement about how this should be approached. You know, these meetings, we've had them at the panel before. Every time there was an amendment to the administrative interpretation, Blackstone came before the panel and they asked for our input and the public input, and they took minutes and they submitted it to the county as the minutes of the panel. That's obviously not what's happening here. And I don't quite know how one in an open house situation, whether they privately take out people's concerns and then ship it off to the panel, but without minutes, I just don't know. So anyway, we will issue a statement about how to respectfully deal with this issue.
Okay, thank you, David. Let's see, what's up next? David, you wanted to mention a few things about insurance.
Oh, yeah, this is a big deal. Everybody knows the National Flood Insurance Program basically subsidizes flood insurance in Lee County. And FEMA administers that process, and FEMA requires the county to enforce resiliency options and building codes. The 50% rule, which everybody's familiar with, if you live in a flood zone and your home is damaged 50%, you have to build up. And that's so that the federal government and taxpayers don't continue to subsidize flood insurance in flood zone areas or on barrier islands like Captiva, and constantly have to pay out rebuilding costs to keep rebuilding houses that get destroyed because they're not raised in flood zone areas. And so we have a situation where the flood insurance, the federal flood insurance, takes in less in premiums than they pay out in rebuilding or insurance costs. And so they're very cognizant of that, and they want anybody who gets a discount or anybody who gets flood insurance subsidized by the government to make sure that if those homes are damaged more than 50%, that they're built up to current code. Everybody's aware of that, I assume, and you know what I'm talking about, right? Okay. Well, last week or about 10 days ago, FEMA advised Lee County, including Captiva, because we're unincorporated Lee County, and 4 unincorporated areas of Lee County, Cape Coral, Fort Myers Beach, Estero, and Bonita Springs, that all residents in those areas would lose their flood insurance discounts. Because the county, according to FEMA, did not enforce the compliance rules, the 50% rule, and other code requirements that you needed to get a discounted flood insurance. We had in Lee County a 25% discount on flood insurance because Lee County had complied with the prior FEMA requirements. And they're claiming that what FEMA claimed is that Lee County, after Hurricane Ian, didn't properly apply the code and the FEMA requirements for resiliency in terms of rebuilding. It'll affect about 115,000 flood insurance policyholders, and the average increase around Lee County would be about $300 a year. Obviously, in certain places it'll be more, certain places it'll be less. But basically, FEMA was saying that the county didn't enforce the 50% rule. So when houses were damaged more than 50%, they let them rebuild those houses without meeting current code. FEMA claimed there was a lot of unpermitted work and a lack of documentation. And they did not provide FEMA with a number of homes that were substantially damaged by Ian and how many were properly elevated to meet current code. According to FEMA, they sent 3 letters to the county in February, June, and December, asking for information on the number of damaged homes. And according to FEMA, they didn't get sufficient answers. FEMA came out and looked at the status of like 590 properties that were substantially damaged in their view. And they asked for the permitting and code applicable to those homes. And they said they didn't get the information that they wanted. At this point, FEMA changed the rating from a rating 5 to a rating 10, which eliminates the 25% discount. And if this issue isn't resolved, we could lose flood insurance altogether in Lee County, all subsidized flood insurance. So the county, according to FEMA, needs to do a remediation plan. But under no circumstances could discounts get reinstated before April of 2026. So for example, Miami complies better with FEMA rules. They have a 35% discount. Pinellas County has a 40% discount. We had a 25% discount, which is now reduced to a 0% discount. I actually looked at the 3 letters that the FEMA sent to the county, and they do raise the issue, but I got to tell you, the first letter compliments the county on complying with all the FEMA regulations. The second letters to the county, second 2 letters, the county does ask for more information about the homes that were damaged by the hurricane and how they were investigating to see which ones needed to be rebuilt according to code and which ones could be rebuilt without raising them above flood elevation levels. And there was discussion and email exchange between the county and FEMA. And frankly, I could not tell from the exchanges that I saw whether FEMA was being really reasonable in what they were requesting, or whether the county wasn't providing the information that was legitimately asked for. I just couldn't tell from the exchange. All I could tell is that FEMA was telling them that the discount was going to disappear. Yesterday, and now it's in the news this morning, in response to county officials and state legislators and federal Florida representatives being upset about the FEMA removing the discount, we just heard that FEMA has given a 30-day stay, a 30-day reprieve period where the county can hopefully provide the information that FEMA is looking for. And if the county can do that, the discounts won't be removed. So there'll be a 30-day period where the county will communicate with FEMA and see if they can get this issue resolved. And that's what we know as we sit here today. It becomes difficult because and it doesn't affect everybody. It affects people, I think, more outside of Captiva and the rest of Lee County. But for example, if you want to get a mortgage, you have to have flood insurance. But if you can't get flood insurance anymore because FEMA won't subsidize, because the National Flood Insurance Program won't subsidize it because Lee County is not meeting the requirements, then people aren't going to be able to get flood insurance, and they may not be able to get mortgages. Leaving aside the fact that even if they get flood insurance without discounts, the price is going to go up. So anyway, that's where we are. Hopefully within the next 30 days, this issue gets resolved, and the 25% discount that we'll all have taken advantage of up to this point will continue. Jay, that's my report on that.
Okay, thank you, David.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Sure.
One is, do we know what Sanibel's discount is?
I don't know what their discount is, but their compliance wasn't questioned. They did not lose the discount.
Okay, and then the other one, isn't flood insurance required for mortgages?
That's what I just said.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I missed it.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Other questions?
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to Sunset Captiva Crosswalk. This is Linda and David, this is a topic that you want to discuss with the panel?
This
I
is
think it's John's.
It was
too.
John Simpson and yeah, on behalf of John, I contacted the head of Department of Transportation. They asked me to contact their person there, Jillian Shola, who is the person who's in charge of the crosswalks. I called her, I left a message. I'm expecting to hear back from her. As soon as I do, I'm gonna have a conference call with John and me and her, and we'll figure.
Okay, this is to put a crosswalk across Captiva Drive, which would connect both sections of Sunset's Captiva, is that?
Yes.
Right.
That is,
Exactly. Yep.
and here, we've been given the right person to talk to. Everybody confirms that. We're just waiting to hear back from her. And as soon as we do, we will get this thing moving. And I put John in touch with her.
Yep.
Okay, next up, wastewater update, that is me. The third study, consulting study that Sanibel required to evaluate processing wastewater for Captiva was the economic study, which is basically a study to determine what kind of compensation Captiva people should make to Sanibel that reflects all the past investment Sanibel has made in their in building their wastewater facility. That study was commenced a couple of days ago, and they should have it finished in early June. So in early June, then we will know all the components of the costs of having Sanibel process our wastewater for us. There's going to be some complications in this that has to be worked out. I think that you know, as I look at the two engineering studies that were done, to me, it's kind of questionable that Sanibel needed to spend all this money. Just to refresh your all's memory, they want $20 million to run additional piping parallel to their existing piping down Sanibel to handle our wastewater. They feel like their existing piping is not adequate, which would be a cost of $20 million to us. And they're also saying that we are producing enough additional processed effluent that Sanibel will be forced to create another deep injection well to handle the increased processed wastewater that would be coming from Captiva. These amounts seem, you know, extraordinarily, you know, high to me, and there's going to have to be some means of reviewing these projects and make sure that these costs really reflect the additional burdens that we're putting on Sanibel. Not quite sure right now how we're going to go about doing that, but that's something that's going to have to be done. And then I think, secondly, I think before we have a final plan, we're going to have some kind of more resolution about what's going to happen with South Seas and what their total processing requirements are. So the net of it is, I think, you know, we'll finally get an idea of total project cost, but whether or not we can move directly from that and to start proposing this, you know, I don't know at this point. So that's my update. Be happy to, I guess I ought to say one other thing is that the problem Sanibel has is they have a lot of material going into their wastewater pipes that isn't wastewater. You know, they have
Like
leaks in
storm
their
surge?
pipe.
Like
Yeah,
storm sewers?
yeah, like storm sewers, people, you know, draining their yards, you know, into the sewer system.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so I don't know, I suspect that they could have a lot of things going on here, that, you know, reflect demands that are being placed upon them other than just, what our additional demands would be.
And Jay,
Do they have an extensive storm sewer system, Jay?
But,
Annabelle?
I don't think so. I don't know anything about it.
Okay.
I know they have mentioned to me a number of times that they feel like they have, I forget what the word they use for it is, but it's like intrusion or something like that into their pipes that are not wastewater that's going through the processing plant.
John knows all about that.
Hey,
Yeah.
and Jay, I know it's too early, but I saw where the state's gonna take $450 million a year from gambling, taxes collected on gambling, put it into the environment, which includes, you know, wastewater conversion.
Yeah, right.
So,
Well, that'll be another huge step in front of us here is how much public support are we gonna get for this project? Because the costs have just gone way beyond whatever our estimates were.
mhm,
You know, when we did the straw poll and got buy-in from the community,
yeah,
you know, at that time, we were assuming an average cost per property owner of about $30,000.
yeah,
If Sanibel does need, in fact, to put in all these parallel pipes, and if they in fact need to do another a deep water injection well, that's gonna be more like 75,000.
yeah. And then we can lobby for public money.
Funding and right,
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
So at any rate, that's the status of that. If anybody has any more questions, I'm happy to try to respond to them.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, stormwater update. David, I know you've been trying to get the $200,000 to fund the developing a stormwater plan for the village.
Yeah.
And you had numerous discussions with the county as to how they were gonna pay for that. Do you want to give us the latest version of how that's gonna be paid for?
At this point, the county was seeking funding from what they call the CDBG DR grant, which is a Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery. And they were in the process of submitting that proposal and are still doing that. It goes to a committee and then it'll get funded probably by the end of the summer. They're optimistic they get funding, but the problem with it is that the Kimley Horn, who we were working with to develop the proposal, couldn't bid on the project. And that was unfair. It seemed unfair to us, and it was not what we intended. So I met with the county commissioner about this. And I've been told that they will get funding from a different source so that Kimley Horn would be able to do the study that they developed the scope for and work with the community to develop. And I haven't had final, I have a commitment, but I don't have final results of that commitment. And hopefully within the next month, we will get funding for it separate and apart from a CDBG DR grant. If for some reason that doesn't take place, I already spoke to Molly Williams from Kimley Horn, and she and I both understand this. She understands the situation. She appreciates that we're trying to get funding so that she can do the project. But if she can't, then we'll have to go to CDBG DR route, which would be unfortunate because that would then go out for bid to someone who we haven't even discussed this issue with at this point. So we'll see what happens. But I'm fairly hopeful that there'll be $200,000 from state funding for recovery or some other source that'll get this project funded. But one way or the other, we're going to do this project.
Hey, David, thank you for that. How are the iguanas doing, John?
They're well, it's a time of the year when the females are laying their eggs. So Alfredo is looking for, you know, them digging holes and trying to get them before they lay their eggs. But he's still going at it 2 days a week. So.
Do you feel like you're getting any feedback as to whether or not, the problem is being, controlled by him, or are we just spending more money, or?
I mean, I think it's definitely, it's definitely helping. I still see a couple big ones here and there, but not as many as I was seeing last year. So I think it's definitely helping. Because
I agree.
we missed a year, we didn't have iguana help for a year. I think that brought them back. So to keep them under control, you just have to stay on top of it. So it's definitely helping.
Okay. Okay, Development Committee, Anne.
Thank you, Jay. John, that segues nicely into the conversation that Ken and I had discussing the budget. Our 2024 proposed budget is about $78,000, and 46% of that is on iguana eradication. So nothing personal to you, John, but that is the biggest line item in our budget. And so I know that Ken has requested funds from Lee County to replace that money for us, but we're not sure if they're going to do that. And I don't think that we're feeling 100% positive that they are going to give us the money. So if we continue to pay for it, I mean, obviously that amount can go down based on the number of times that Alfredo comes out every month. But assuming we stay with the current time allotment, we might want to consider doing a targeted fundraiser in the fall. We have the annual letter that goes out, and we have the welcome back cruise. But we also have to consider that a lot of people have contributed and will continue to contribute to protect Captiva. So I think we have to be very thoughtful about how often we ask, and what we ask for. So we'll look at it again in the late summer, and I'm certainly open to ideas or suggestions. But I think if we do something, should really be specifically for the iguanas, so that people understand that's what the money's not necessarily going to the general funds. It's going specifically for this issue. We tried to get dedicated funds that didn't pass. So until we get rid of the problem, this is going to continue to be a line item in our budget, assuming Lee County is not going to participate.
And is it 50,000 right now in the budget?
It's 36,000, and our budget is 78,000. And so it's almost half.
Okay, so right now he's coming out twice a week, so that's that would be 50. If it's a full year, that's 50,000.
And Ken has it down as about 3,000 a month average. So I think he's averaged it out. There's some times when it's what you're saying, and then sometimes it's less.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it's average of 36,000.
So if we cut them back a day, which, definitely that's a possibility, we could get that down.
Get it down, yeah. Because we looked at the budget and there's really nothing else. I mean, a little bit of kind of nickel and dime things we might be able to slice off, but our budget is pretty tight. Obviously the administrative expenses are important. That's Ken. We have, some Zoom fees, we have insurance, really everything is under, other than Ken, it's under $1,500. So the iguana right now
Yeah.
doesn't have a dedicated funding source. And so that's really, and really, John, it's not your issue. I'm not looking at you. You've
No,
just
no.
taken this on.
Yeah.
You're not responsible for the iguanas. We understand that. But anyway, that's really just what we're looking at in terms of if we can meet our budget. And we may be affected a bit by people who are sending the money that they might have sent to us to protect Captiva, and that's completely understandable. But if people want the iguanas eradicated, we were thinking of doing something fun. And I'm not going to get into any kind of shooting gallery kinds of conversation.
I think an iguana hunt would be great,
Yeah, I know.
I've been a proponent all along because we have a Captiva rod and gun club, and we
Yeah,
have all
right.
these fishing guides, and
Yeah.
they would have a great time with it.
Oh,
we
man.
want to do it at a time when there's not a lot of tourists, maybe the last 2 weeks of August,
No, these guys, they
really
chip in 10 grand a piece to go have an iguana tournament.
Okay, well, somebody else is going to have to run that.
Just prize for the largest, largest one. I've got one that hangs out at the tree at Harbor House that's about 5 feet long.
Oh.
And, yeah, it's huge.
Sandy, I think you've just put yourself in charge of the iguana fundraising committee.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Bruce McDonald would have to also be considered
They've come in from
for
all
this
over the
leadership
world.
position. He likes hunting the iguanas.
No, I think it could be something that would work, and then it would definitely make a huge impact, and then still do the, trapping from that point on. But at least it would take care of the immediate issue right now. They're reproducing very quickly.
Yep. No, that'd be great.
Okay, well,
Mhm.
it gets people
Yeah, why
fired
don't you
up like
look into
iguanas.
that?
Yeah.
See the legal aspects of having,
Yeah.
5-6 dozen Captiva marauders going around shooting iguanas, if that's
Yeah.
legal.
Yeah.
Well, we could ask the sheriff, of course. It would have to be, something that the sheriff would be involved with and stuff. But, John Dickey and the whole group, they're all part of that. I bet
Oh,
we
yeah.
could talk to them and they would take it on, so you just never know. I'm not going to speak for them, but I don't mind asking unless somebody else wants to ask them. And
No, I think I know how he would respond to that.
Maybe we could get the sheriff when he's not busy, get into shooting a few of them.
Okay, what else do we have?
Okay, well, nothing like a group support. So yeah, more to come. Thank you, Sandy. And Ken Gooderham perhaps can look into some of the logistics of that.
Yeah.
Jay, I just want to, we're moving into panel members' comments and questions. I just would like to say something. There have been a couple of rumors and conversations about what's happening on our property that Lisa Riordan and some other people have mentioned to me. I just want to say that people are more than welcome. Anyone in the community is more than welcome to reach out to me at any time. I'm actually the one that can answer those questions. And I appreciate that Lisa, as the head of the Homeowners Association, has a Captiva Homeowners Association, has had to field some of those questions. But I think I'm very approachable. People can email me, they can call me, we can meet. People have asked, is there going to be a pond in front of the new building on the corner of Leica and Captiva Drive? No, there is not going to be a pond, pool. We have the ocean, we have the bay. No.
So is what you're saying, Ann, there are rumors going around about what various elements are going to be, and they're not right? And
people at one point thought the new building was going to be a parking lot, and which I'm sure was exciting for many people. But I just want to say that any questions, any concerns, please call me directly.
Okay.
Great.
Very good. On to some other topics, I had a brief conversation with Verizon. They expect the small cell towers to be operational sometime between July and October of this year. So that's that one. Excuse me, sorry. Sorry about that, folks. So I wanted to report that out, that that project is nearing its close, and I'll be very interested in seeing if this produces a very significant increase in the quality of our cell communications.
Mhm.
So I had that one, and I think that's all I had. Does anybody else have anything further?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just one thing, if we can get that points to talk about, you know, if we're gonna go to this open house, maybe we'd send it out to the panel members and see what that goes, when you think it's appropriate, or, you know, I just want to, how we should, what should
Right,
we do to make sure we're doing the right thing and having the
exactly,
impact
Tony.
that you want. So let us know, that's all.
Yeah.
We'll
David,
definitely,
I trust you'll take charge of that one.
I'll definitely work on that with
Okay.
various other people for sure.
Right.
Was there any comment from the audience that has not been addressed?
No, there isn't.
Okay, well, there's nothing else. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
All right. I'll
Second,
Thank you.
all in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
See you all next month. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
See you
Bye.
next month.